Welcome back to another project video. My name is Mitch and this is Made by Mitch. Today I'm going to show you how I made this baby rattle. So let's check it out. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is use spray adhesive, attach this template to the block of wood, and then we'll cut out the shape. Now I have this available on my website for download if you're interested. It's got the place where the dowel will go and then all the markings you will need for this. So let's get to it. So the first thing I did was cut out the template. You can obviously use a pair of scissors, but I didn't have any in the shop, so I just used a utility knife. And then I just used spray adhesive to put this onto the piece of oak. Nice save. I'm working on two of the same rattle during this process, so if you see a couple different versions of it, that's why. Before I cut out the outside of the shape, I'm going to drill the hole out first. That way I can hold the board down while I do it. I put a piece of 2x6 under the oak board to prevent tear out once the hole saw got all the way through, and this worked really well. Next, I drilled out the hole where the eye was, also using the board underneath to prevent the tear out. And then I can use a jigsaw to cut the shapes of these out. Using these two clamps to hold the board onto the workbench makes cutting this out a lot easier. I never cut exactly on the line, I always leave a little bit of room. Later on I'll come back in with the belt sander and clean it up. Okay, so I managed to get these guys cut out. I've got the hole cut out and the eye drilled out. So now it's time to sand these down, install the dowel, and finish it up. Let's check it out. So I tried to get a straight line right across the middle. Now I have a mark here, but I've already cut out the hole where the dowel was supposed to go. So I tried to just keep it even as possible. And then I marked it right here. So when I put my hole through this side, that's where I'm aiming. I'm gonna go clear through so that I can put a dowel in, and I'll glue the dowel in here and in here, and then cut it off here. Started a little bit crooked, so I'm gonna use this countersink bit to give me the right starting place. This part I made sure to go really slow and try to make it as even as possible. If you have a Forstner bit, it would make this a lot easier. I didn't have one, so I just went with what I had. Next, I just had to sand everything down. At first, I went to the bench sander and got both sides sanded, and then I just went in with the hand sander and tried to get all the edges the best that I could. Some places on this were hard to reach, so I used a rasp, a Dremel, just got creative and used anything I could to get into these hard to reach places. After I got the main part done, it was time to move on to the little pieces that would be on the dowel. So first, I got a strip of walnut, I sanded it down, and then I drilled a couple holes in it, and then I cut them using my brand new bandsaw, which I'm pretty excited about. I did the same thing with a couple maple pieces, and I just made these little cubes with holes in the middle that would go through the dowel to be the pieces for the rattle. Once I got these cut out, I used the bench sander to sand these down really smooth. I also used the disc sander, and this really was the best way to do these small pieces. Just watch your fingers. I mainly did squares for these little rattle pieces, but a couple of them I wanted to try out using circles, so I just rotated them around the disc sander and it worked out just fine. And I'm not kidding about watching your fingers. I actually caught my finger in this slightly, and it gave me like really bad carpet burn, so just watch out when you're doing this. I only had one grit of sandpaper on my belt and disc sander, so I wanted to do something to get some of these other pieces a little bit better. So I put a piece of 220 grit sandpaper and I used spray adhesive to put it to this block of wood and use this to sand the rest of everything down. And now it was time to attach the dowel to the main part and assemble everything together. So I measured my dowel, I cut it out, and then I added glue into the hole where I would be gluing the dowel in place. Then I can just put everything together. I don't know about you, but I just love it when you take a raw piece of wood and you make it into something useful like this, whether it's a large piece of furniture or just a small toy like this. It's just really cool to see a project come together, and this moment right here is my favorite moment when you just look at it and you can see that you made something cool. The next thing I did was I cut the excess piece of the dowel off, and then I sanded that place to where it was smooth with the rest of the rattle. And now it's just time to add the finish. To finish up the rattle, I wanted to use a non-harmful substance just because kids may be playing with this toy. I did some research online and found a solvent that worked really well for this rattle. I used beeswax pellets and castor oil. I put them in a double boiler, mixed them together, and then it made this solvent. Now you can use a couple other different types of oils along with beeswax, mineral oil, jojoba oil. I've seen people use coconut oil, and then all you do is rub this onto the rattle.